Okay. Hello, everybody. This is the part 2 section, and so far I have this one rectangle laid down, and that represents the water pitcher, the white water pitcher there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find this second largest form that's within the vicinity of that white water pitcher, and I'm thinking about this object. And remember, I'm only putting the rectangle in, which is the overall height and the overall width. So it's the highest point, lowest point, and the two widest points. So I could easily put this one in right now. I think I'm going to do that next. So this is the Tupperware looking plastic transparent form, which is nice because it overlaps this guy, and I can use this as a building block. So from my viewpoint, you can probably see this a little bit there, but see this, how this starts to intersect the right side of that form? That to me is the highest part, and it intersects that form, I'd say, a little bit less than halfway. So you're thinking in terms of halves, quarters, things like that, and you're using relationships. And you're going to build it from this guy here. So what I'm going to do is say, I'm going to try to find where the halfway point is on this form. So I'm going to guess where a halfway point is, and it's probably like around here somewhere. So I'm going to put the tip of the pencil where I think the halfway point is. And I'm going to see if it's equivalent to the entire form itself, if it counts in twice. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the tip of my pencil where I think the halfway point is, and I'm going to guess like right there. You can see where my thumb is at the bottom of the form, the white pitcher, and then I'm going to remember exactly where the tip of my pencil is. Move up and see if it's equivalent. Perfect. So that is my halfway point. And then if I move this over to the left or the right, do you see that where that plastic piece intersects the pitcher? It's a little bit below the halfway point. Great. That's perfect information that I can actually translate here. It's concrete information that I'm going to use and translate. However, from your viewpoint, it's different than my viewpoint. It's a little lower than half, and I'm just going to have to measure from here. To be honest, it's not that much lower from half. So if this is the halfway point of this, I'm just going to double check to see if it is. I just guessed it. I'm going to check it. Nope, it's a little too high. Perfect. So this is the halfway point right here, the longer one. Where when I measured the halfway point there, that where the plastic came into the water pitcher was just a little bit below. It was actually pretty similar when I just measured there. So I'm going to say it's like right here. That is a mark that I'm going to use as my highest point. I've established the highest point of that object. That's all I care about. And I'm going to run a horizontal line through because these overlap each other, and there's going to be rectangles that overlap. I've had students in the past would draw right on the rectangle, water pitcher, Tupperware form, box, just so they don't get confused. So you can kind of see that I threw a horizontal line in. That represents the very top of this form. Now, I don't know if I'm can see this lip here? That's an accessory. I call that an accessory to the form. Even though it is the furthest part in terms of width out, I might eliminate that at the moment because that's something I can add on afterwards. And I just might just try to find as this being the furthest part out. And just keep it kind of like a vessel. Same way as if I was drawing the water pitcher. I'm not going to do the handle first. I'm just going to draw the main shape of the form first. So right here, I'm trying to figure out this, but what I can do, I can measure the distance between here and the side, which means, I mean, it's hard to do because it's so small in here, but I can measure this, and I can count how many times that counts into the width of the water pitcher, because the water pitcher is my point of reference. So I refer back to it consistently to compare and contrast measurements of other objects. So I'm going to look at the distance between here and how far it takes to get to the water pitcher, and that way I can draw my vertical line down. And I've done 2 of the 4 lines, which is great. The trick part, though, is that what I didn't realize, the water pitcher tapers in. So it's not easy to measure that because this line isn't tapering in. This is just a vertical line. So it doesn't represent the water pitcher yet. So I have to think about how far is this edge from the bottom. That's a trickier one. Okay. So it counts in 5 times, and I'm counting at the bottom. Like here, I was counting across the top. Always count at the bottom because that's the widest part in this case. So the distance between here and here is 1/5 of the distance between here and here. So I'm just going to guess what I think a fifth is, and I'm going to see if it counts in 5 times, and if it does, I'm going to add that distance to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope. A little bit more. So this line here, I marked it twice. I was wrong twice, but it's a little bit more. But the distance between here and here, and I'm just going to use my pencil, is the distance between here and here. Oh, I'm sorry, here and here. I'm using my fingernails to mark it so I can mark it with my pencil. You could also use a piece of paper, and I did this in a previous video. You can use a piece of paper to mark it, and then you can use that same piece of, actually, this might be more effective because I clearly missed it. Using my fingers because not as effective. So what I do next is I take that mark and I draw a line straight up. Okay. Now I made a huge line. I didn't mean to make it that big because it's only going to go up to here. So I can erase this. Otherwise it's probably going to confuse you later. Here. Now the next line, which is down here at the bottom, it basically is the corner of this right here. I don't know if you can see it, but the corner of that is a little lower than the picture. I don't have to measure that. It's so small. It's minor, but I can probably just say, it's about that much further down. And then I'm going to strike that line. Okay, so now I have this, I don't have the right side, and I could do one of 2 things. I'm going to do them both. So I have 2 pieces of information to find the truth. I'm going to measure from that side here over to the picture. And I'm going to do something like this, and then I'm going to count how many times it's in the picture, just like I did the other side. 1, 2, 3. Counted 3 times, so it was 1/3 of the size in the bottom. Since I have so many marks here at the bottom, I'm going to go up top and break that down into thirds. Let's see if that's a third. 1, 2. Nope, too big. Let's see if that's a third. 1, 2. Perfect. That's a third. I'm going to take that distance and use my paper this time. Mark it. Take my paper, bring it over here, and mark the side. Okay? Once I do that, I draw a line straight down. And again, I can't stress enough how effective these graph rulers are, because all you have to do is line it up with an existing line perpendicular or make it parallel to an existing line, and then you just make a perpendicular line to that line. So easy. Otherwise all your lines will be crooked, and once you put the rest of the information in, it'll be crooked as well. So you can see this rectangle here. This starts slow, but once you get 1, 2, 3 forms in, 4 forms in, you're halfway done. Then you can start to just fill the rest in. They're super easy. In some cases, like for example, the glass that's back there, I can't see it that much. I might not put it in yet. I can wait till the end. But try to put as many as you can. So what I'm going to do now is just do a little cleanup so I don't confuse myself and you guys at home. Another thing with the still life, you can hear it shaking. Don't make something that's going to fall over if you bump it on the table or something. Make something that's a little sturdy that can withstand a couple weeks of time. After this, we're gonna hit the what do you call it? Cardboard form, the box, and figure that out. But before I go there, I just want to measure the individual characteristics or the individual proportions of this form, and then I'm going to cut the video, and we'll start this in part 3 of this video. So I'm going to measure the height of this and see if it counts into the width the same as I have here as it does there. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going to measure the height of that Tupperware thing. 1, 2, it's like 1 to 2-ish, but I could do it here. 1, 2. It's a little bit heavier than 1 to 2. I'm going to go from here. So that's 1, 2. I was a little short. So what I can do is I can add here, or I can add here. So you make those subtle adjustments. And then you make those subtle adjustments. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add to the top just a little bit. And then I'm going to add to the side here and add to the side here, just a hair, but I may have done what I needed to do. Actually, I didn't have to add to the height. That was wrong. And I'm glad I made that mistake. But I can add to the right and I can add to the left, just a hair. And by doing that, I'm just making a small incremental change. And by doing that, it should extend it to the measurements that of the individual form. 1, 2, yes. All right, so now I'm just going to take off those lines I made. And I'll take off this line I made. And then I will come back with part 2. So you always want to just double check all of your lines after, or the overall proportion of that individual form you just made. You want to always finalize it with measuring the height and width of that form, check and see if your height and width is equivalent, and if it is, you can move on to the next one. Okay, part 3 coming up.